When I was younger, I used to sit down on my bed and play Sonic Adventure on my GameCube to escape whatever life would throw at me, or just for fun. Just turn on my little CRT and escape into another world. I'm sure a lot of us have memories like that. And the reason why I hold these memories so close to my chest is because my little brother was right there with me. Sonic Adventure had this cool little feature where if you beat a level with Sonic, entering it again would have Tails follow him around. From there, you could plug in a second controller and have someone play along with you. This is what my brother and I did growing up. What you could do was limited, the functionality wasn't perfect, and the camera only followed where Sonic went, just like the classics, but we enjoyed it regardless because it meant that we could play together. We even made little videos of us playing and then dubbed over the characters with stupid voices. Please don't try to find those, by the way.
Time to try out this weird new park. Swinkle Park. Sounds like Pea Park. Swinkle? Pea?
He didn't really have the confidence or skill to play it himself, at least not the main story. He would kinda just run around and try to figure out what to do as Sonic, and I would always have to direct him or play for him. But one day, I told him to play through Tails' story since it's a bit easier for new players. I wanted him to be able to do things himself instead of just relying on me. Over time and through overcoming challenges, you're taught independence and how to believe in your own abilities, just like Tails did. If you can do that, then you can conquer anything and become your own hero. I'm Juice, and today we're going to be talking about how Tails did just that, and what it means to believe in yourself.
Here I come, Sonic!
Hey, you look nice today. And to help me on my journey, maybe like the video if you end up liking it. It helps more people see it, and I have a bunch more character analysis videos coming out too, so make sure you subscribe and hit the bell if you want to get notified of those. Also, Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays, whatever you celebrate. I hope it's been fantastic for you. I usually wear my Santa hat all of December, but I have no idea where it is, so hopefully these will do. Is this festive? It has jingle bells. Okay, I'm wearing them because they're ears. They're not fox ears. They're close, all right? I think Tails gets a bad rep nowadays because of how he's portrayed in modern Sonic games. He's cowardly and even a bit arrogant, seemingly becoming a caricature of himself. Then again, it's hard to find a Sonic character who hasn't become that in recent times. But in order to understand why this is so upsetting, we have to go back to when we were first introduced to Tails and watch him grow. With the sequel to Sonic the Hedgehog in development, a contest was held at Sega Technical Institute to design a sidekick for Sonic, one that would get the attention of potential new fans. Name Miles Prower was decided on, which is a pun on miles per hour. Pretty clever if you ask me. The marketing director wanted to change his name to Tails, which I can't really blame him for. But in the end, it was decided that that would be his nickname. Best of both worlds. And so, we're left with our orange fox boy, Tails, who was born with a genetic mutation of having two tails instead of one. A cool design trait turned into a story element, as our origin story for Tails starts here, in Sonic 2. Tails was bullied by the other foxes on West Side Island for his abnormality, and because of this, he has low self-esteem. We're not really sure how long this has been happening for, but having low self-esteem as a child due to bullying can have effects that last a very long time. During one of these times, Sonic is exploring the island when he passes by Tails and knocks his bullies out just by running by. Naturally, Tails did not want to sit idly by as such an anomaly comes his way. He leaves the other foxes behind and starts chasing after Sonic. Someone who saved him just by doing his own thing, something Tails had never experienced before. He was naturally intrigued and inspired, that level of confidence being something he wishes he had. And it was enough for him to fight against his fears and run forward. Trying his very best, Tails actually ends up being able to keep pace with the hedgehog somewhat. Using his two tails, he's able to run at high speeds unlike any other fox, and even discovers his ability to fly. And it's in this moment that Sonic takes notice of him, when he showed prowess. When he showed that he could be himself. Being a shy, young boy, anytime Sonic would notice him, he'd turn away. But think about how this must have felt for him. This is probably the first time in his life where someone showed genuine interest in him because of his differences. The first time he wasn't made fun of for it. And it's by the guy who blew down his bullies without even trying. No wonder why Tails clung to him and hasn't let go since. And all Sonic had to do was, well, be himself. That's the beauty of our actions. We can influence people with each one, so it's good to always be the best version of yourself that you can be. It's because of this that Tails has made his first real friend, and together they'd chase down Eggman to stop him from obtaining the Chaos Emeralds and achieving world domination. He even saves Sonic from falling from the Death Egg as it explodes. By the way, did you know that Tails actually fixes the tornado and modifies it to reach the speed of sound? It's how they were able to fly fast enough to catch up with Eggman's rocket when heading toward the Death Egg. And speaking of planes, let's talk about Sonic Adventure, arguably the game where Tails sees the most growth in his character. It started pretty rough for him, getting outdone by Eggman in the chase to find the Chaos Emeralds. But he does clearly show that he's capable of great things. He just doesn't have the confidence yet. Like when he's racing Sonic around the world for fun anytime they're on the right track to find an emerald. Or when he's showing off just how smart he is with the technology he creates. Speaking of which, after the defeat of Chaos 4, Eggman shows off his egg carrier to escape. And there's only one way to catch up to that, with the tornado. Unfortunately, however, things didn't go according to plan when Eggman shoots a final flash out of his airship, destroying one of the tornado's wings and sending it careening toward the ground. When we find Tails, we witness him lost in a nostalgic dream of when he first met Sonic, mentioning that he's changed a lot thanks to him. With that reminder, he's reinvigorated. Though our fox may have fallen down, he is not deterred. He now makes it his goal to complete the Tornado 2 using the power of a Chaos Emerald. Even without Sonic, he'll have to go on his own journey to make it happen. And that includes snowboarding through ruins, time traveling with Tikal, and this. After working to finally complete the plane, Tails takes off from what looks like the same docking stations found in Star Fox 64? Is it because he's a fox? Game theory? He picks up Sonic from Red Mountain, and from there it's on to Act 2 of chasing down Eggman. They make their way onto the ship, despite Tails forgetting to add a landing mechanism to the transform state of the tornado. Side note, I think it's kinda cute how Tails gets excited to see the egg carrier transform here, while Sonic just talks about how hard it's gonna be to get further into it. Shows Tails' love of mechanics, though earlier Sonic does marvel at how massive the ship is too. He just loves experiencing new things. Once the ship begins losing altitude, Tails flies down to Station Square, saving Amy in the process. But when he gets there, he finds Eggman, who in a last resort decides to blow up the city using a missile. Thankfully it was a dud.
I can't believe this!
But now we have to get to it before Eggman does and he activates it. All of those times where we raced Sonic and tried to keep up culminate in this very moment. Tails once again tells himself that he's changed thanks to Sonic, but that he can't keep running behind him. He's gonna have to run using his own strength. And that he does, defusing the bomb before Eggman can get to it. In one final attempt, Eggman uses the Egg Walker, an enormous and powerful mech to stop Tails from getting in his way. But Tails just once again reminds himself that he doesn't need to be scared, and that he can do this by himself. And he does exactly that, defeating Eggman while the whole city thanks him. Look how happy he is here. I love this scene. The way that Tails' story is portrayed here, it's almost as if it's how Tails wishes he acted when he was around Sonic. I'm not sure if you noticed, but in Sonic's story, playing the same scenes, Sonic is the one who took the lead in conversations and fought the battles against Eggman, Knuckles, and Gamma. The way that I perceive this is that Tails looking at himself as the hero is him looking up to Sonic. Much like a little brother would, Tails pictures himself saying the same things in these situations, but doesn't have the courage to do it yet. He's still figuring himself out. The analysis I wrote on Sonic was about how he influences the people around him, and this is one of the clearest examples of that point. At the end of the day, it was Sonic who did those things, but Tails was right there with him, and the way I like to see it, Sonic couldn't have done all this without him. Whether it be Tails' building of the tornado, helping him find and collect the Chaos Emeralds, picking him up and taking him aboard the egg carrier, they fought together. He was an integral part of it all. He just didn't see that because of his low confidence. But as he goes on, he starts to see himself as the hero that he truly is. It's a beautiful story about what it's like to grow up and the challenges we can face along the way. How sometimes all we need is a role model, and how drastically our lives can change based on our perception of ourselves.
All's well that ends well, right?
Hey now, don't get too ahead of yourself, Tails. We're not quite done with the story yet, bud. We'll continue into his other adventures right after this commercial break. Stay tuned. Have you ever wanted to be cool? Be awesome? Do you want to fly high like Tails? Well, look no further and join our Patreon right now! You get to see videos early, behind the scenes content, and get your name in the credits at the end of the video. So let's go subscribe to the Patreon so you can mine some amazing content. All for the low price of like a few dollars. Join today. All right, I apologize for how over the top that was. Oh, who am I kidding? No, I don't. I like having fun. Anyway, back to Tails, right? Where were we? Ah, yes. It's time to talk about his new independence. We've seen Tails grow up, and we've even seen him become a hero. Now, how exactly will we see him run forward with that heroism? He becomes quite the courageous fox in his next Sonic adventure. 2, doesn't he? I see a lot of people say that he just repeats his story arc from the previous game, and that he sees no growth here, but seriously? What exactly backs this up? I don't see it. He wouldn't even be able to do half the stuff he does in SA2 if he didn't go through his arc in SA1. He just wouldn't have the guts for it, you know? You really think timid Tails from the start of the Sonic franchise would be heading to Prison Island to break Sonic out of jail and immediately run to fight Eggman of his own accord to save Amy? I don't know about all that. Almost all the times Tails has fought Eggman, it's been with Sonic, or him pretending that he's the one in charge doing it alone. Even Amy is surprised that he's able to do it. I don't want to hear that he never grew, or that he's repeating the same arc again. No, he's on his own missions here for most of the story. Sonic put so much faith in Tails in this game, he was even able to recognize the fact that Chaos Emeralds attract each other, and then builds a fake one. How far has his genius gone? Damn. He's the one who had the idea to throw it into the machine in order to break down the Eclipse Cannon and foil Eggman's plan. He specifically designed it for that. But what I think is the biggest demonstration of his growth in this story is after Sonic gets launched into space by Eggman when he finds out that the Chaos Emerald he's holding is indeed the fake one. We can thank Tails' big mouth for that. Sonic says that he leaves the rest to Tails. This is the first time Sonic has asked him to handle things for him, and that's why he's not going to run away. He proceeds to fight Eggman on his own, even after his closest friend was taken from him. The one he's followed for all this time, and the one who taught him to be an individual. That's true growth. And you know what the kicker is? If Tails never made that fake Chaos Emerald, Sonic would have died. It's possible a similar situation would have happened even without the fake emerald, and in that case, Sonic would have died. He wouldn't have been able to escape the capsule set to explode. In the end, Sonic relied on Tails just as much as Tails relied on him. And that's powerful. That's what happens when you believe in yourself. Now, I guess I could get into the modern Sonic games and how Tails has become more of a tech head than ever. He's grown as a mechanic, right? Look, to be honest, I don't really know how to tackle Tails in modern Sonic because for the most part, it seems like he's gone backwards in development and has become that caricature of himself like I mentioned earlier. There's of course the obnoxious example of him cowering and begging for Sonic to help him fight Chaos Zero despite him fighting Chaos 4 before, since that's been talked about a lot, but I guess even with that, it really depends on how you picture those events taking place in the first place. Like what I said earlier about how I think in reality the events of Sonic Adventure can be portrayed as the characters fighting together. But even with that being said, the elements of his growth that I mentioned that are divorced from that point still contradict his recent showings in games. To get meta for a quick minute, I think this has a lot to do with the fact that Sonic Team has introduced us to a massive group of powerful characters that they've built up over time. And when you have that, you set expectations for how these characters should act in a story, of course. But how do you do that without taking away from the main hero, Sonic? Well, for the most part, it looks like they artificially take away that growth and power or not include them at all. It's like the Dragon Ball effect. I guess Sonic really is inspired by Dragon Ball. And then when they do bring them in, it's almost as if they forget who those characters even are. Probably due to different writers for the series. As we know, there have been many people who have written these characters over the years. I think that if you're going to use a character, then you should take what that character has gone through into account when writing them, and not just default to their tropes without understanding their behavior. You don't have to use all the characters. They can be doing their own things. You can have side stories and spin-off games. But it's also not as if they've never written all the characters well together in the past. I guess they're just having trouble writing them in a way that makes them interesting after they've gone through their main arc. We can make this point about pretty much all of the Sonic characters, but I don't think it's impossible, they just have to want it. They listened to the fans about not wanting to see anyone but Sonic, and that's what led us to the quote-unquote meta era, and then again listened when we said we wanted to see them again, but didn't write them according to who they are. So will we ever win? Now Sonic Frontiers takes a different approach. One that I'm not entirely sure how I feel about yet, but one that I think I personally enjoy more than what we've gotten in the past. Writing Tails' writing inconsistencies into the story seems like a bit of a cop-out, but the way that it's concluded does make some sense to me, you know? They could have pretended that the games he was written poorly in don't exist, or they could have done this. Regardless, taking the time to grow out of those inconsistencies and really reflect on who you are and why you act the way you do is a very, very important thing. Everyone ought to be doing that if their focus is self-improvement. Maybe he'll get a little spin-off, who knows? They at least have me interested in him again, which is more than I can say for the previous decade. But despite these recent games, we should never forget the lessons that Tails taught us. He was left with low self-esteem, and that made him over-reliant on Sonic after idolizing him. But over time and through challenge, he grew into his independence and learned to believe in himself, becoming a true hero. And that's the power of Player 2. Thanks for watching the video all the way to the end. If you liked it, I would love if you subscribed and checked out some of what I had to offer. Why not check out the analyses I did on Sonic or Gamma? Oh, and consider subbing to the Patreon too if you want to see the next one early. There's no way you already forgot the advertisement I did in the middle of this video. And special shout out to Heinzel and Erd for subscribing to the Tomato Juice tier. With that being said, happy holidays and Merry Christmas once again. I'll catch you next time, and take care of yourselves. Or else.